My mother looked me dead in the eye through the FaceTime screen and said, "Zuri, no one needs you to come this Christmas." I stared back at her at my brother snickering in the background and his wife inspecting her nails and simply replied, "Cool." Then I added one sentence that would change the trajectory of their entire lives. "Well, everything will be cancelled then." And slowly my mother's face turned pale. My name is Zuri, and I am 29 years old. For the last 5 years, my family has treated me like the help while they lived like royalty on my dime. To them, I am just a glorified secretary, a personal assistant with a little scheduling business. What they do not know is that I am the owner of Zenith Concierge, a multi-million-dollar luxury travel and event firm catering to NBA stars and Fortune 500 CEOs. They see the laptop and the headset and assume I am taking orders. They have no idea I am the one giving them. It was a Tuesday evening, and I was in my home office finalizing an itinerary for a client who wanted to rent out a private island in the Maldives. My phone buzzed with a FaceTime request from my mother, Mama Patrice. I sighed, rubbing my temples. I knew what this was about. They were calling from the 4-bedroom house in the upscale Buckhead district of Atlanta. A house that I paid the lease on every single month, though they conveniently forgot that detail. I answered the call, putting on my best dutiful daughter smile. "Hey, Mama. Hey, Malik." The screen filled with my mother's face, her hair perfectly done in a style that cost $200, which I had transferred to her account last week. Behind her sat my older brother Malik, 32 years old, and currently unemployed for the 4th year in a row, though he told everyone he was a crypto investor. Next to him was his wife Tiffany. Tiffany was 28, with blonde hair and a smile that never quite reached her eyes. She had joined our family 3 years ago and had made it her personal mission to remind me of my place. She looked at me through the screen like she was smelling something unpleasant. "We need to talk about the Christmas arrangements, Zuri," my mother began, her voice carrying that tone she used when she was about to ask for money or deliver bad news. I leaned back in my ergonomic chair. "Okay, Mama, what is the plan? I already booked the flights for Aspen. I secured the reservations at the Little Nell just like Malik wanted." Malik puffed out his chest. "Yeah, about that. We have been talking and things are going to be a little different this year." "Different how?" I asked. Tiffany leaned forward, capturing the camera's focus. Her voice was syrupy sweet, the kind of sweet that makes your teeth ache. "Well, Zuri, my parents are flying in from Connecticut this year. The Brentwoods are used to a certain level of comfort and privacy. We really want to make a good impression." I waited for the punchline. "Okay, so we need to add 2 more seats to the reservation. I can call my contact at the airline." "No," Mama Patrice interrupted, waving her hand dismissively. "That is not it, baby. The thing is, the house in Aspen only has 5 bedrooms. Malik and Tiffany need the master suite, obviously. The Brentwoods need the VIP guest suite. I need my room, and we need a room for Malik's wardrobe and equipment." I did the math in my head. That still left a room. And frankly, Tiffany cut in, "We just do not think there is enough space for you this year, Zuri." The silence that followed was so loud I could hear the hum of my hard drive. I blinked, trying to process the words. "Excuse me." Mom sighed as if I was being difficult. "Oh, Zuri, do not make a face. You know how it is. Tiffany's parents are very traditional. They are not used to... well, they are not used to clutter. And you know how you get when you are stressed about work, always typing on that little computer. It ruins the vibe. We want this to be a classy, elegant Christmas." Clutter. I was the clutter. The woman paying for the trip was the clutter. Malik chimed in, his mouth full of snacks I had paid for. "Yeah, Z, and besides, it is not like you really fit in with the Aspen crowd. You would just be bored sitting in the lodge while we are out on the slopes networking. It is better if you just stay in Atlanta and watch the house." "Watch the house? The house I paid for." "So let me get this straight," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "You are uninviting me to the Christmas vacation that I planned." "That Malik planned," Tiffany corrected sharply. "Malik is the one who treated us to this trip, Zuri. You just made the phone calls. You are an assistant, that is your job. Do not act like you own the trip just because you booked the tickets with Malik's card. I looked at Malik. He refused to meet my eyes, looking down at his phone. The card Tiffany was referring to was a platinum credit card I had given Malik for emergencies, an authorized user card attached to my business account. He had told Tiffany he was a silent partner in my company. He had told her he was the one funding our lifestyle. Mama Patrice nodded in agreement. Tiffany is right, Zuri. Malik has been so generous this year. God has truly blessed his investments. It is only right that he enjoys this time with his in-laws, without his little sister tagging along and making things awkward. You can come over for New Year's maybe if you bring some of that potato salad I like. The disrespect was physical. It felt like a slap across the face. For years I had played this role. The supportive sister, the dutiful daughter. I had eaten ramen noodles in college so I could send money home for Malik's new Jordans, because Mama said he needed to look the part of a man. I had built an empire from scratch while they thought I was answering phones. I had let them live in my investment property rent-free because I craved their love. But this, being told I was too low class to attend a vacation I was financing. Being told I was clutter by a woman who had never worked a day in her life. I looked at my mother, the woman who raised me, the woman who was currently wearing a diamond necklace I bought her for Mother's Day. She looked at me with zero remorse, just expectation. She expected me to say, "Okay, Mama." She expected me to fold like I always did. But something inside me snapped. It was not a loud snap. It was a quiet click, like a lock turning. "Cool," I said. My mother blinked, surprised by my lack of begging. "Good. I am glad you are being mature about this, Zuri. Now make sure you send the itinerary to Tiffany's email and upgrade the Brentwoods to first class. We do not want them thinking we are cheap." Then I added the sentence, "Well, everything will be canceled then." Tiffany laughed, a high-pitched sound that grated on my nerves. "What are you talking about, canceled? You cannot cancel it. Malik paid for it." I leaned into the camera, smiling a smile that did not reach my eyes. "Is that what he told you?" Malik's head snapped up, panic flashing in his eyes. "Zuri, do not start. Mom, tell her to stop being jealous." "Jealous," Mama Patrice huffed. "Zuri, you are just jealous because Tiffany is everything you are not. She is a wife, she comes from a good family. You are almost 30 and you are still single, working for other people. Do not try to ruin your brother's happiness just because you are miserable." "I am not ruining anything, Mama," I said, my voice steady. "I am just respecting your wishes. You said you do not want me there. You said I am clutter. You said I ruin the vibe. So I am removing myself from the equation. And since I am the one who pays for the flights, the resort, the private chef, and the black car service, if I'm not going, nobody is going." Tiffany turned to Malik, confused. "What is she talking about, babe? You said you paid for it. You showed me the receipt." Malik started sweating. "She is lying, Tiff. She is just trying to make me look bad." "Zuri, stop playing games. Send the tickets. I am not playing Malik. I picked up my other phone, my business line. I am calling my travel team right now. Protocol 0. That means total cancellation. Non-refundable to you, but fully refundable to me because I own the agency." Mama Patrice laughed. It was a nervous laugh, but she tried to make it sound condescending. "You own the agency. Girl, please, you answer the phones. Stop lying to impress Tiffany's parents." "It is pathetic." I tapped the screen. "Cancel, cancel, cancel." "You will get the notification emails in about 2 minutes," I said. "Enjoy your Christmas in Atlanta." "Oh wait, I might need the house back too since I am clutter." "You better watch your mouth," Mama Patrice shouted, standing up. "I am your mother. I brought you into this world and I can take you out. You think you are big time now because you handle a few bookings for rich folks. You are nothing without this family." "I am nothing," I repeated. "Okay. Let us see how much of a something you all are without my credit card." I moved my finger to the end call button. "Wait!" Tiffany shrieked. "You cannot do this. My parents are already packing. This is humiliating." That sounds like a personal problem, I replied. Malik jumped up, knocking over his chair. If you cancel that trip, Zuri, I swear to God I will come over there and you will do what Malik I asked. You will drive over here in the Range Rover I pay the lease on, using the gas I pay for, wearing the clothes I bought, to beat up the sister who keeps a roof over your head. Try it. My building has armed security. Malik froze. Mama Patrice's face went from red to a ghostly pale as her phone pinged. She looked down at it. It was a notification from the airline app, trip canceled. Trip. She looked back up at me, fear finally replacing the arrogance in her eyes. Zuri, what did you do? I smiled. Merry Christmas, Mama. I ended the call. The screen went black. I sat there in the silence of my penthouse apartment overlooking the city skyline. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady. For the first time in 29 years, I did not feel small. I felt powerful. But I knew this was just the beginning. They would not go down without a fight. Malik was a liar and a leech, but he was persistent. And Tiffany was about to find out that her golden ticket husband was actually a counterfeit bill. I picked up my phone and dialed my assistant. Yes, Ms. Jenkins. Sarah, I said. I just canceled the Aspen itinerary for the Jenkins party. Yes, ma'am, I saw that go through. Should I rebook anything? No, I said. But Sarah, do me a favor. Send a bill for the cancellation fees to the secondary card on file. The one with Malik Jenkins' name on it. But ma'am, that card has a zero balance limit as of 5 minutes ago. Exactly, I said. Let it decline. Let him get the notification that he is broke. And Sarah, yes, ma'am. Prepare the eviction notice for the Buckhead property. I think I am ready to sell. I hung up the phone and walked to the window. Snow was starting to fall in Atlanta, a rare occurrence. It looked beautiful, cold and clean, just like my revenge was going to be. My phone started ringing. It was Malik, then my mother, then a number I did not recognize, probably Tiffany. I silenced them all. They wanted a Christmas without me. They were going to get exactly what they asked for, but they were about to learn a very expensive lesson. You do not bite the hand that feeds you, especially when that hand is wearing a Rolex that you did not pay for. Before I could pour myself a glass of wine, my phone lit up with a text message from Malik. You think you are smart. Wait until Mom tells the church what you did. You are going to burn for this. I laughed. The audacity. They really thought shaming me would work this time. They thought the old Zuri, the one who begged for scraps of affection, was still here. They were wrong. The old Zuri was dead. And the new Zuri, well, she had receipts, and she was about to air them out for the whole world to see. I opened my laptop and logged into my bank portal. I navigated to the sub-account labeled Family Support. I clicked on the transaction history. 5 years of rent, 5 years of car payments, tuition for Tiffany's master's degree that she never finished, bail money for Malik that one time in Vegas. I highlighted it all. Right-click, print. If they wanted to drag my name through the mud, I would make sure I paved the road with the truth first. Suddenly, my security app pinged. Motion detected at the front gate. I pulled up the camera feed. It was the Range Rover. Malik and Mama Patrice were at the gate of my apartment complex screaming at the security guard. I watched as the guard, a large man named Tiny, who I tipped very well, shook his head and pointed away from the building. Malik slammed his hand against the steering wheel. Mama Patrice looked like she was weeping, holding a Bible up as if to cast out demons. I pressed the intercom button connecting to the guard station. Tiny. Yes, Ms. Jenkins, they are not on the list. Understood, ma'am. I watched as Tiny stepped forward, hand resting near his belt. He said something to Malik. Malik's face twisted in rage, but he backed the car up. They were retreating. For now. But I knew my family. They were like mold. If you did not scrub them out completely, they would just keep coming back toxic and spreading. I needed to do more than just cancel a trip. I needed to cut the cord, permanently. I went back to my computer. It was time to draft an email. An email to Tiffany. Because if there was one thing I knew about my sister-in-law, it was that she loved money more than she loved Malik. And once she found out the well was dry, the fireworks would really begin. Subject: the truth about Malik's assets. Attachment: payroll records Malik Jenkins. PDF. I hovered over the send button. This was the nuclear option. This would destroy his marriage. It would destroy the lie he had been living for 3 years. I thought about the way Tiffany looked at me. Clutter. I clicked send. Game on. I sat in my high-rise office, the city of Atlanta sprawled out beneath me like a circuit board of lights and concrete. My phone buzzed on the mahogany desk, vibrating against the glass surface. It was a notification from Instagram. Malik Jenkins is live. Against my better judgment, I slid the phone closer and tapped the screen. I needed to see the height of their delusion before I brought them crashing down to earth. The screen filled with Malik's face too close to the camera, his skin glistening with sweat and arrogance. He was walking through Lenox Square Mall, holding the phone high so everyone could see the luxury storefronts behind him. "What is up, everybody? It is your boy Malik, coming at you live," he shouted, his voice echoing slightly in the busy mall. "We are just doing some last-minute shopping before we head out to Aspen." Yeah, you heard that right. Aspen, baby. We are doing it big this year. Black excellence in the snow, you feel me? He panned the camera to Tiffany, who was strutting beside him, wearing a white fur coat that I knew for a fact she had bought with my credit card 3 weeks ago. She waved at the camera, posing with her hand on her hip, trying to look like a reality TV star. "Hey guys," she cooed, flipping her hair. "We are just getting some winter essentials. Malik is spoiling me as usual. We are flying first class, staying at the Little Nell. It is going to be so exclusive. Just family and real ones only." I watched as the comments rolled in. Fire emojis, people asking for money, people praising Malik for being such a provider. It was nauseating. Someone in the comments asked, "Is Zuri coming?" Malik laughed, a harsh barking sound. "Nah, man, Zuri is not coming. She is... How do I put this? She is staying in her lane this year. You know how some people just cannot handle seeing others shine. Little sis is a bit jealous of the glow-up, if I am being honest. She is probably at home right now crying over a spreadsheet while we are out here living life." Tiffany giggled, leaning into the frame. "Yeah, she is just not a good fit for the vibe we are curating. We need positive energy only. No haters allowed in the private jet." I stared at the screen, my expression unmoving. Jealous. They thought I was jealous. They thought the woman who paid for the roof over their heads, the clothes on their backs, and the phone they were streaming on was jealous of their parasitic existence. It was almost impressive how deep their delusion ran. They were standing on a trapdoor I had built, and they were dancing on it. I did not type a comment. I did not send an angry emoji. I simply closed the app. I swiveled my chair around to face the floor-to-ceiling windows. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the room. It was time. I picked up my desk phone and dialed a number I had saved for emergencies. It was the direct line to my head of operations, Sarah. She picked up on the first ring. "Ms. Jenkins." Sarah said, her voice crisp and professional. "Sarah," I said calmly, staring at my reflection in the glass. "Initiate Protocol 0. There was a brief pause on the other end. Sarah knew what this meant. We had discussed it once as a hypothetical, a nuclear option for unruly clients who tried to scam us. She probably never expected I would use it on my own flesh and blood. "For the Aspen itinerary, ma'am," she asked, confirming. For everything, I replied. Every single reservation connected to the Jenkins name. The flights, the accommodation, the transport, the private chef, the ski lift passes, the equipment rental. All of it. "Understood," Sarah said. "I am pulling up the files now." I listened to the sound of her typing. It was a rhythmic, soothing sound, like the ticking of a clock counting down to midnight. "First the flight," Sarah said. 2 first-class tickets on Delta one-way to Aspen, 2 return tickets. Do you want to cancel or just void them? Void them, I said. Make them disappear from the system. I want them to walk up to that counter and find out they do not exist. And Sarah makes sure the refund goes back to the company account, not the card on file. Done, she said. Next is the Little Nell. You booked the premium suite with the mountain view. Cancel it, I said. And call the concierge there. Tell them that any inquiries from a Mr. Malik Jenkins or a Mrs. Tiffany Jenkins should be directed to security. They are not authorized guests. I imagined the look on the hotel manager's face. The Little Nell did not play around with unauthorized guests. Done, Sarah confirmed. Now the car service. You requested the Escalade with the heated seats and the champagne service for pickup at the airport. Kill it, I said. Let them take a shuttle, if they even make it off the ground. One by one we went through the list. It was a dismantling of a fantasy, a systematic deconstruction of the lie my brother and his wife had been living. Every luxury they bragged about, every status symbol they flaunted was being erased with a few keystrokes. It was surgical, it was cold, and it was absolutely necessary. And Sarah, I added as she finished the last cancellation. There is one more thing. Yes, Ms. Jenkins. The supplementary American Express Platinum card issued to Malik Jenkins, the one he is currently using to parade around Lenox Mall. I want you to lower the credit limit. To what amount, ma'am? Sarah asked. $500, 100. Zero, I said. Lower it to 0, and flag it as lost or stolen. There was a beat of silence, then Sarah's voice came back warmer this time. With pleasure, Ms. Jenkins. It is done. Thank you, Sarah. Take the rest of the night off. I hung up the phone and leaned back in my chair, closing my eyes. I took a deep breath, inhaling the scent of expensive leather and conditioned air. It was done. The safety net was gone. The illusion was shattered. Now all that was left was for gravity to do its work. I turned my attention back to my personal cell phone. I opened my banking app and set up a notification alert. I wanted to see it happen. I wanted to see the exact moment reality hit them. About 20 minutes passed. The sun had fully set now, and the city lights were twinkling below me like diamonds. I poured myself a glass of water, my throat dry from the tension. Then it happened. My phone buzzed. A single short vibration. I looked down. A banner notification from American Express stretched across the lock screen. Transaction declined. I unlocked the phone to see the details. Merchant Gucci Lenox Square. Amount $3,450. Card member Malik Jenkins. Status declined. Reason credit limit exceeded. Card flagged. I stared at the numbers. $3,000. He was trying to spend $3,000 on a bag or a pair of shoes while telling the internet I was the jealous one. He was trying to spend my money to impress a wife who only loved him because she thought he was rich. Another notification popped up. Transaction declined. Gucci Lenox Square. Amount $3,450. He was trying again. He probably thought it was a mistake, a chip error, a bad connection. A third notification. Transaction declined. I could see it in my mind's eye. Malik standing at the counter, sweat breaking out on his forehead, the sales associate looking at him with that polite pity they reserve for people whose cards bounce. Tiffany standing behind him, her smile faltering, her eyes darting around to see if anyone noticed, the line of people behind them starting to shift and sigh. He would be tapping the card furiously. He would be telling them to run it again. He would be pulling out his phone to check the app, an app he did not have the login for because it was my account. I took a sip of water. The coolness of it felt good. The phone buzzed again. This time it was a text message. From Malik. Yo Zuri, call the bank. Something is wrong with the card. I am at the register and it is acting up. Fix it ASAP. I read the message and let out a short, humorless laugh. Fix it, he wanted me to fix it, too. He wanted me to fix the fact that he was a fraud. He wanted me to fix the fact that he had bitten the hand that fed him and now he was starving. I did not reply. I let the message sit there unread. Another text came through a minute later. Zuri, pick up the phone. This is embarrassing. People are looking. Good, I thought. Let them look. Let them see you for what you are. I watched the screen as a third text appeared. Zuri. I turned the phone over, placing it face down on the desk. I stood up and walked to the window, pressing my hand against the cool glass. Below me, the world kept moving. Cars drove by, people walked to dinner, life went on. But in a Gucci store in Lenox Mall, my brother's world was ending. And for the first time in my life, I did not feel the urge to save him. I felt the peace of letting him fall. While I sat in the quiet luxury of my office, enjoying the silence, the chaos I had orchestrated was beginning to unfold at the busiest airport in the world. Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport does not care about your ego or your pretensions, and it certainly does not care if you think you are famous on Instagram. Malik and the rest of the traveling circus arrived at the terminal curb, not in the stretch limousine I had originally booked, but in a rattling Uber XL that smelled faintly of stale French fries and pine air freshener. The driver, a tired man who had clearly had enough of their complaints, slammed on the brakes, causing Tiffany to lurch forward and spill her iced coffee onto the floor mats. I can imagine the scene perfectly. Tiffany stepped out of the van, her white fur coat looking ridiculous in the Atlanta humidity. She wrinkled her nose, looking at the crowded sidewalk as if the air itself was beneath her. Behind her, her parents, the Brentwoods, climbed out, looking stiff and disapproving. They were old money, or at least they pretended to be, and arriving in a rideshare service was not part of the brochure Malik had sold them. Be careful with that. Louis Vuitton. Tiffany snapped at the driver as he unloaded the bags. That luggage costs more than your car. The driver just rolled his eyes and dropped the bag on the curb with a heavy thud. Malik scrambled to pick it up, his face already shining with a sheen of nervous sweat. He was wearing a tracksuit that he told everyone was vintage Gucci, but I knew he bought it off a guy in a parking lot on Buford Highway. Come on, babe, Malik said, his voice high and tight. Let us just get to the lounge. The VIP treatment starts inside. I promise. Mama Patrice adjusted her hat, trying to look dignified amidst the exhaust fumes. She smiled at the Brentwoods, a tight, strained smile. You know how it is with these services, she said loud enough for the driver to hear. Good help is so hard to find these days. Zuri usually handles the logistics, but she has been so unreliable lately. They marched toward the terminal entrance like a parade of peacocks. Tiffany led the way, parting the crowd with her elbows and her entitlement. She walked past the economy check-in lines, past the self-service kiosks, heading straight for the Delta One priority desk. This was her moment. She was ready to show her parents that she had married a king. At the priority counter, a woman named Keisha was working the desk. She had the patience of a saint and the eyes of someone who had seen every scam in the book. She watched as my family approached the Brentwoods, looking skeptical, Mama Patrice looking hopeful, and Malik looking like he was walking to the gallows. We are checking in for the flight to Aspen, Tiffany announced, slamming her passport onto the counter. Jenkins party, 5 passengers, and we have a lot of bags, so make sure they get priority tags. We do not want to wait at the carousel. Keisha picked up the passport slowly. Good afternoon, ma'am. Do you have your confirmation number? Tiffany scoffed, turning to her mother. Can you believe this? Can you? They ask for numbers like, we are regular people. Malik, handle this. Malik stepped forward, fumbling with his phone. His hands were shaking. He pulled up the screenshot of the itinerary I had sent him weeks ago. The itinerary that was now nothing more than pixels on a screen. Here, he said, holding the phone out. Jenkins, first class. Keisha typed the number into her keyboard. The click-clack of her typing was the only sound in the tense group. She frowned. She typed again. Then she stopped. I am sorry, sir, she said, her voice professional but cold. This reservation number is invalid. Tiffany laughed, a sharp barking sound. Do not be ridiculous. Check it again. It is under Malik Jenkins, the investor. Keisha did not check it again. She looked up and met Tiffany's eyes. Ma'am, I have checked it by name and by number. There is no active reservation for a Malik Jenkins or a Tiffany Jenkins on this flight. What do you mean, no active reservation? Mama Patrice interjected, leaning over the counter. We have tickets. My daughter booked them. She is a concierge. Ah, Keisha said, nodding as if solving a puzzle. I see a record here of a booking that was made under a corporate account. Zenith Concierge Services. Yes, that is us, Tiffany said, smirking at her parents. See, Mom, I told you. We have a corporate account. However, Keisha continued, her voice dropping an octave. The entire itinerary was canceled approximately 45 minutes ago by the account administrator. The silence that fell over the group was heavy and suffocating. The Brentwoods exchanged a look. Mr. Brentwood checked his watch. Cancelled, Tiffany whispered. What do you mean, cancelled? I mean, the tickets have been voided and the seats have been released to the standby list, Keisha explained. As of right now, you do not have tickets on this flight or any other flight to Aspen. Tiffany spun around to face Malik. Her face was turning a dangerous shade of red. Malik, what is she talking about? Why did you cancel the tickets? I did not. Malik stammered, backing away from her. I did not touch them. Tiff, I swear. It must be Zuri. She is messing with the system. It is a glitch. A glitch! Tiffany screamed, causing people 3 lines over to turn and look. A glitch does not cancel 5 first-class tickets, Malik. Mama Patrice tried to intervene, reaching for Tiffany's arm. Honey, calm down. I am sure we can sort this out. Zuri probably just made a mistake with the dates. I will call her and— Do not touch me, Tiffany snapped, pulling away from my mother. She turned back to the agent, slamming her hand on the counter. Listen to me. I do not care what your computer says. We are supposed to be on that plane. My husband is a VVIP client. He spends millions with this airline. You need to fix this right now or I will have your job. Keisha looked at Tiffany. She looked at the fake fur coat and the cheap hair extensions. She looked at Malik sweating through his tracksuit. Then she looked back at Tiffany with an expression of pure, unbothered calm. Ma'am, raising your voice will not generate a boarding pass. The tickets were canceled by the purchaser, Ms. Zuri Jenkins. If you would like to fly today, I can check availability for economy class on the later flight, but you will need to pay the current walk-up fare. Economy. Tiffany gasped as if Keisha had suggested she fly in the cargo hold. Yes, economy, Keisha said. And just so you know, the walk-up fare for 5 people to Aspen during peak holiday season is approximately $12,000. Would you like to use the card on file? Tiffany turned to Malik. Her eyes were wide, not with love but with panic and rage. Her parents were whispering behind her, shaking their heads. Her father was already pulling out his phone, probably looking for a Uber back to his hotel. Malik, she hissed, stepping into his personal space. You told me you handled this. You told me you were the boss. You told me you were a VVIP client who could get anything he wanted. Malik looked around desperately, looking for an exit, looking for a lie that would stick. It is Zuri, he whined. She is jealous, Tiff. She is doing this to embarrass us. I do not care about your sister. Tiffany screamed right into his face, her spit flying onto his chin. I care about the fact that I am standing in an airport with my parents looking like a fool. You said you were a big shot. You said you ran the company. Well, if you are such a boss, fix it. Pull out that black card you are always flashing and buy us new tickets. Right. Now. My office was silent save for the hum of the air conditioning, but in my mind I could hear the explosion I had just detonated 3,000 miles away. Malik stood there in the middle of the busy terminal, his phone still held out in front of him like a dead weight. The speakerphone had done its job. My voice had carried crisp and clear, cutting through the ambient noise of the airport and landing directly in the ears of everyone he had been trying to impress. Tiffany was the first to move. She snatched the phone from Malik's hand, staring at the screen as if it might give her a different answer, as if my name on the caller ID was a hallucination. But the call had ended. The screen was dark. She looked up at Malik. Her eyes were wide-rimmed with smudged mascara, filled with a mixture of confusion and a dawning, terrible realization. The silence between them was louder than the announcements over the PA system. "What did she say?" Tiffany whispered, though she had heard every word. "What did she mean she pays for the ring?" Malik reached for her, his hands shaking. "Babe, listen to me. She's crazy. She's lying. You know Zuri. She's always been jealous of me. She's trying to ruin this." "Don't touch me," Tiffany shrieked, recoiling from him. She looked at the American Express card still sitting on the counter, the piece of black plastic that had been the symbol of her security, her status, her good catch. Now it looked like exactly what it was, a prop. Mr. Brentwood stepped forward. His face was a mask of cold fury. He was a man who understood money, understood power, and most importantly, understood when he was being played. He looked at Malik, not with anger, but with the kind of disdain one reserves for something stuck to the bottom of a shoe. "You told us you owned the company," Mr. Brentwood said, his voice low and dangerous. "You told us your sister worked for you. You sat at my dinner table, drank my scotch, and told me about your investment portfolio." I do have investments," Malik stammered, sweat now pouring down his face, soaking the collar of his tracksuit. "Zuri just handles the administrative side. She's mad because I didn't give her a raise. That's all this is, a disgruntled employee." "A disgruntled employee who can cancel your credit card?" Mrs. Brentwood scoffed, crossing her arms over her designer coat. "A disgruntled employee who says she paid for my daughter's engagement ring. Young man, you are not just a liar. You are a fraud." "Mom, please." Malik turned to Mama Patrice, desperate for an ally. Tell them Zuri is lying. Tell them I'm the one who takes care of the family." Mama Patrice stood there, clutching her purse, looking like a deer caught in the headlights of a semi-truck. She looked at the Brentwoods, seeing the disgust on their faces. She looked at Tiffany, who was hyperventilating. She looked at Malik, her golden child, who was suddenly tarnished beyond repair. For a second, I wondered if she would do the right thing, if she would finally admit the truth. But old habits die hard, especially when they are built on a foundation of pride and delusion. She is confused," Mama Patrice stammered, her voice weak. "Zuri has always had a vivid imagination. She gets it from her father's side. Malik is a businessman. He has assets. He has nothing," Tiffany screamed, causing the entire check-in line to jump. "He has nothing. Patrice, the card was declined 3 times. The tickets are gone. We are standing here like idiots with luggage we can't even check." Tiffany spun around to the agent Keisha, who was watching the scene with the impassive expression of someone who wasn't paid enough for this drama but was enjoying it nonetheless. "You," Tiffany pointed a manicured finger. "Check the account again. Who is the primary cardholder? I want to see a name." "Ma'am, I cannot disclose," Keisha began. "Show me." Tiffany slammed her hand on the counter. "If my husband owns the company, his name is on the account. Show me." Keisha sighed. She turned the monitor slightly, just enough. "The account is under Zenith Concierge Services. The sole proprietor listed is Ms. Zuri Jenkins." The air left Tiffany's lungs. She slumped against the counter. It was the final nail in the coffin, the undeniable written proof. Mr. Brentwood had seen enough. He grabbed his wife's arm. "Come on, Catherine, we're leaving." "Leaving?" Malik asked, his voice cracking. "Where are you going?" "We can fix this. I have other cards. You have wasted enough of my time," Mr. Brentwood spat. "We are going to find a flight home, a flight I will pay for. And as for my daughter," he looked at Tiffany, "you can come with us, or you can stay here with this charlatan. It's your choice." Tiffany looked at her parents, safe, secure, rich. Then she looked at Malik, sweaty, panicked, broke. Tiffany started, tears streaming down her face. I can't believe this. Tiff, baby, don't leave, Malik begged, reaching for her hand again. We can just go back to the house. We can have Christmas in Atlanta. It'll be great, just us. The house. Tiffany laughed, a hysterical, broken sound. The house Zuri pays for? The house she probably canceled too. Malik froze. The thought hadn't occurred to him until just now. If I had canceled the trip, if I had canceled the card, what else had I done? Call her, Tiffany demanded. Call your sister back. Put her on speaker. I want to hear it from her. I want to know if I even have a home to go back to. She won't pick up, Malik said, looking at his phone like it was a bomb. Give it to me. Tiffany grabbed his phone. She hit redial. In my office, the phone rang again. I smiled. I knew they would call back. They always did. I let it ring twice, then answered. Hello? Zuri? Tiffany's voice was shaking. It's Tiffany. Tell me the truth. The house in Buckhead. Who pays the rent? I do, I said simply. Every month, $4,500. And the car? The lease is in my name. The payments come from my account. And Malik has received a monthly stipend from my company for the last 5 years under the classification of consultant fees to avoid tax issues for him. He has never worked a day for me. He has never invested a dime. I heard a sob escape her throat. So it's all a lie. Everything. The business, the money, the lifestyle. It's all you. It's all me, Tiffany, I said. And since you called my brother a king and me clutter, I decided it was time to clean house. Speaking of which, you might want to find a hotel tonight. I have a feeling the locks on the Buckhead house are going to be changed by the time you get back. You evicted us. Consider it a lease termination due to non-payment of respect, I said. Happy holidays, Tiffany. Good luck with the divorce. I hung up. Back at the airport, Tiffany dropped the phone. It clattered to the floor. She looked at Malik with eyes full of pure hatred. You are pathetic, she whispered. Then she turned to her father. Dad, get me a ticket. Get me out of here. Tiff, Malik cried, falling to his knees, literally grabbing the hem of her coat. Don't go. I can explain. I can make it right. She kicked him off. Actually kicked him. Get away from me. I never want to see you again. She marched away with her parents, leaving Malik kneeling on the dirty airport floor, Mama Patrice standing over him, wringing her hands, and a line of 50 people watching the show. The VVIP experience had officially ended. The screen was black, reflecting her own terrified face. She looked up slowly. The Delta agent Keisha was watching her with a look of professional indifference, though a small smirk played at the corner of her lips. The line of people behind them was growing restless, shifting and grumbling, but in the immediate circle of the Jenkins family time seemed to have stopped. Tiffany was the first to break it. She stepped forward, her face a mask of crumbling plaster. Her eyes darted from Malik to her mother-in-law, then settled on her own parents. What did she say? Tiffany whispered, her voice trembling. Mama Patrice tried to laugh, a nervous, high-pitched sound that fooled no one. Oh, you know Zuri. She's having a mental breakdown. She's talking nonsense. She thinks she owns the company just because she has the passwords. She is just— Stop, Mr. Brentwood said. It was a single word spoken with the weight of a gavel striking a desk. Tiffany's father stepped forward, moving past his daughter, past Mama Patrice, until he was standing directly in front of Malik. He was not a tall man, but he carried himself with the authority of someone who signed the front of checks, not the back. Malik shrank back instinctively, trying to make himself smaller inside his tracksuit. Mr. Brentwood looked at him, his eyes cold and assessing. He looked at the declined credit card still sitting on the counter. He looked at the phone Malik was clutching so tightly his knuckles were white. "You told me you owned the company," Mr. Brentwood said, his voice low and dangerous. "You sat in my study 2 weeks ago and told me that Zenith Concierge was your brainchild. You told me Zuri was your employee, that you hired her to help her out because she was struggling." I do." Malik stammered, sweat dripping down his nose. "She is just mad. She is trying to stage a coup. It is a hostile takeover, sir. She locked me out of the accounts." "A hostile takeover," Mr. Brentwood repeated slowly, testing the words. "Of a company you supposedly own. Yet you cannot override her. You cannot call the bank. You cannot produce a single credit card that works." "It is complicated." Malik tried, his voice rising in pitch. "Business is complicated. You know how it is, sir? Family and business do not mix." "No, they do not," Mr. Brentwood agreed. "Especially when the business is a lie." He turned to his daughter. "Tiffany, come here." "Come." Tiffany walked over to him looking like a child who had been caught shoplifting. "Daddy, Did you know?" Mr. Brentwood asked, cutting her off. "Know what?" Tiffany asked, tears spilling over. "Did you know that your husband is a fraud? Did you know that the sister he calls Clutter is the one paying for the clothes on your back?" "No," Tiffany sobbed, shaking her head violently. "No, Daddy, I swear. He told me he was rich. He showed me the bank statements." "Bank statements can be photoshopped," Mr. Brentwood said with a sneer. "Just like this trip. Just like this life." He turned back to Malik, who looked like he was about to vomit. "Your sister just said on speakerphone that she is the one paying the rent. She said she is the one paying for the cars, and judging by the fact that we are standing here with no tickets and no way to pay for them, I am inclined to believe her." "Now listen to me, boy." Mr. Brentwood stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper that was louder than a scream. "You are going to step away from my daughter. You are going to step away from this counter. And if I ever see you near my family again, I will not call the police. I will call my lawyers, and they will dissect your life until there is nothing left but the lie you started with." Malik opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. He looked at Mama Patrice, begging her to fix it, begging her to spin a story that would save him. But Mama Patrice was silent. She was clutching her purse, staring at the floor, her face gray. She knew. She had always known. And now, under the harsh lights of the airport terminal, with the eyes of strangers boring into them, she had nowhere left to hide. Mr. Brentwood turned to his wife. "Catherine, grab your bags. We are going home." "But our luggage," Tiffany wailed, pointing to the pile of designer bags on the scale. "Leave it," Mr. Brentwood said, walking away. "It is probably fake anyway." Tiffany looked at Malik one last time. There was no love in her eyes anymore. No admiration. Just pure, unadulterated disgust. She turned and ran after her parents, her heels clicking frantically on the tile, leaving Malik and Mama Patrice standing alone at the counter, the rejected credit card sitting between them like a tombstone. I sat in my office watching the digital clock on my laptop screen tick forward. It was now late afternoon in Atlanta. The winter sun had dipped below the horizon, leaving the sky a bruised purple. I imagined the scene at the airport. By now, the initial shock would be wearing off, and Malik would be entering the desperation phase. He was a creature of habit, and his habit was lying. He would be spinning a new web, trying to patch the holes I had just blown in his story. He would be telling Tiffany that I was unstable. He would say I was a rogue employee staging a coup. He would say anything to keep her from getting on that plane with her parents. But I was ready for that. I had one more card to play. A digital paper trail that would burn his house of cards to the ground. I opened my email client. I had already drafted the message. It was addressed to Tiffany, but I had carbon copied every single member of the family. My aunts, my cousins, even the pastor of Mama Patrice's church. If they wanted to talk about me, they needed to have all the facts. I attached 3 files. The first was the Articles of Incorporation for Zenith Concierge Services, listing Zuri Jenkins as the sole owner and proprietor. The second was a PDF of the monthly bank transfers to Malik's account, labeled clearly in the memo line as family assistance stipend. The third was a screenshot of a text message from Malik 3 years ago, begging me for rent money because Tiffany thought he was closing a deal when he was actually losing money on sports betting. I took a deep breath. This was it. The final severance. I clicked send. Back at the airport, Malik was indeed scrambling. He had cornered Tiffany near the baggage claim carousel away from her parents, who were angrily tapping on their phones trying to book flights home. Malik was gripping Tiffany's shoulders, his eyes wide and frantic. "Baby, you have to listen to me," he pleaded, his voice cracking. "Zuri is sick. She has been jealous of me since we were kids. She is trying to steal the company from me. She hacked the accounts, Tiffany. It is cyber warfare." Tiffany looked at him, her mascara running down her cheeks. She wanted to believe him. She needed to believe him. If she did not believe him, then the last 3 years of her life had been a lie. If she did not believe him, she was not the wife of a mogul, she was the wife of a bum. "But you said you owned it," Tiffany sniffled. "You said you built it from the ground up. You said Zuri was just your assistant." "She is," Malik insisted, nodding vigorously. "She is just a secretary I hired out of pity because Mom asked me to. But she got greedy. She wants what I have. She wants you, Tiff. She is jealous of our love. She wants to destroy us because she is miserable and alone." Tiffany bit her lip, looking over at her parents. Her father was glaring at Malik like he wanted to strangle him. "I do not know, Malik," she said, her voice wavering. "Her dad said the card was in her name. The agent said she paid for everything. She forged the documents." Malik lied, the words spilling out of him like vomit. "She is good with computers, Tiff. She changed the names on the accounts to lock me out. I am going to sue her. I am going to have her arrested. Just wait. Once we get to Aspen, I will sort this all out. I have another account she does not know about." Tiffany hesitated. The mention of Aspen, the promise of another account, it was a lifeline. She reached for it. "Really?" she asked. "You can fix this?" "I swear on my life," Malik said, pressing his forehead against hers. "Just trust me, baby. It is you and me against the world. Zuri is just a hater." Just then Tiffany's phone pinged. It was a loud, cheerful chime that cut through the tension. Then another ping, and another. A chorus of notifications erupted from her purse. She pulled back from Malik, reaching for her phone. "Do not look at it," Malik said, a sudden panic seizing him. "It is probably just her sending more lies. Do not even give her the satisfaction." But Tiffany was already looking. Her screen was lit up with an email notification. The subject line read, "Urgent financial disclosures regarding Malik Jenkins." She frowned. "It is from Zuri." And she copied everyone. "My mom, your mom, Pastor Jones." Malik tried to grab the phone. "Delete it, Tiff. Do not open it. It is a virus. She is trying to hack your phone too." But Tiffany turned away, shielding the screen with her body. Curiosity and fear warred in her chest, but curiosity won. She tapped the email. She opened the first attachment. It was a legal document. State of Georgia, Articles of Incorporation, Zenith Concierge Services, owner Zuri Jenkins, shares 100%. She scrolled down. Malik Jenkins listed as nothing. He was not an officer, he was not a partner, he was not even an employee. She opened the second attachment. It was a spreadsheet, a payroll record. Date November 1st. Payee Malik Jenkins, amount $2,000. Memo unemployment assistance, allowance. Date October 1st. Payee Malik Jenkins, amount $2,000. Memo rent support. Date September 1st. Payee Malik Jenkins, amount $2,000. Memo car note coverage. There were pages of it. 5 years of payments. Every single dime he had ever spent. Every dinner he had bought her. Every gift he had given her. It was all there, listed under charity. And then she saw the third attachment. The screenshot. Malik to Zuri. "Please sis, I need the money. Tiff thinks I closed the crypto deal, but I lost it all on the Hawks game. If I do not buy her that bag, she's going to ask questions. Please Zuri, just one more loan. I will pay you back, I swear. Tiffany stopped breathing. The world around her seemed to tilt on its axis. The noise of the airport faded into a dull roar. All she could hear was the blood rushing in her ears. She looked at the date on the text. It was from 3 weeks ago, the day he had bought her the white fur coat she was currently wearing. She looked up at Malik. He was standing there, his hands hovering uselessly in the air, his face a mask of pure terror. He knew she had seen it. It is fake, he whispered, his voice barely audible. She photoshopped it. Tiffany looked down at the coat. She felt the weight of it on her shoulders. It felt heavy. It felt dirty. It felt like a costume she had been wearing in a play she did not know she was auditioning for. She looked at her wedding ring. The ring Malik had told her cost $20,000. She wondered now who had really paid for it, or if it was even real. You never had a job, she said, her voice flat and devoid of emotion. Tiff, please, Malik begged, stepping forward. You have been unemployed for 5 years, she continued, her voice rising. You have been living off your sister. You have been taking an allowance like a child. It is a stipend, Malik cried. It is a management fee. It says unemployment assistance. Tiffany screamed, holding the phone up to his face. It says Charity Malik. Your sister pays you to exist. People were stopping now. The Brentwoods had walked back over, drawn by their daughter's screams. Mrs. Brentwood looked at the screen over Tiffany's shoulder and gasped, covering her mouth with her hand. Oh my God, Catherine whispered. He is destitute. Tiffany scrolled to the bottom of the email where I had written a short note. Tiffany, I thought you should know who you really married. The car is leased in my name. The house is leased in my name. The clothes on his back were paid for by my company. As of today, all support has been cut off. He has 0 assets, 0 income, and 0 ownership in anything. Good luck. Tiffany dropped the phone. It clattered to the hard terrazzo floor, cracking the screen. She looked at Malik. She looked at the man she thought was her ticket to the good life, the man she thought was a king. And all she saw was a jester in a cheap tracksuit. You are disgusting, she spat. She did not cry this time. She did not wail. She just started taking things off. She took off the white fur coat and threw it at him. It hit him in the chest and slid to the floor. She took off the diamond earrings he had given her for her birthday. She threw them at his feet. She took off the engagement ring. She looked at it for a second, a sneer curling her lip. Then she threw it as hard as she could. It bounced off his forehead and skittered away under a row of seats. I want a divorce, she said. Tifno Malik fell to his knees again, grasping at air. We can work this out. I can get a job. I can fix this. You cannot fix being a loser, Tiffany said. She turned to her father. Daddy, get me out of here. I do not care where we go. Just get me away from him. Mr. Brentwood nodded, his face grim. He put his arm around his daughter, shielding her from the stares of the crowd. He looked at Malik one last time with eyes that promised legal retribution. Do not follow us, he said. They walked away, leaving Malik kneeling in a pile of discarded luxury goods, the cracked phone displaying his shame for the world to see. He was alone, truly alone. And in my office high above the city, I took another sip of wine and finally allowed myself to relax. The truth had set me free. And it had buried him. The airport terminal, usually a place of transit and excitement, had transformed into a prison of fluorescent lights and the smell of stale grease. With the black Amex card flagged as stolen and my personal Uber account locked against unauthorized users, the Jenkins family found themselves in a situation they had not experienced in years. They were stranded. The private Escalade I had booked was long gone, having received the cancellation notice hours ago. The first-class lounge was a fortress they could not breach. And so the great Aspen migration ended not on the ski slopes, but at a sticky table in the back of the Hartsfield-Jackson food court. It was a scene of devastating humiliation. The Brentwoods sat on one side of the Formica table, their posture rigid, their faces masks of aristocratic disgust. They picked at their salads with plastic forks as if they were eating nuclear waste. Across from them, Malik slumped over a tray of lukewarm fries, his tracksuit now stained with sweat and the shame of 1,000 lies. Mama Patrice sat next to him, clutching her purse like it contained the last shred of her dignity, refusing to make eye contact with anyone. The air around the table was thick enough to choke on. People walked by, dragging their luggage, oblivious to the Greek tragedy unfolding next to the trash cans. But for the 5 people at that table, the world had shrunk down to this moment of reckoning. Mr. Brentwood finally broke the silence. He wiped his mouth with a paper napkin and dropped it onto his tray. "So let me get this straight," he said, his voice cutting through the din of the food court. "You have no job. You have no company. You have no assets. And you brought my daughter and us to the airport to fly on a plane you could not pay for, to stay in a hotel you did not book." Malik did not look up. He stared at his fries, as if they held the secrets of the universe. "I can explain, sir," he mumbled. "It was a liquidity issue. My assets are tied up in—" "Stop it, Mr." Brentwood snapped, slamming his hand on the table. "Just stop lying. For once in your miserable life, stop lying. We saw the email, Malik. We saw the payroll records. You are on an allowance, a grown man on an allowance from his little sister." Mrs. Brentwood chimed in, her voice dripping with venom. "It is not just that he is broke, Harold. It is the deception, the audacity. To sit in our home, to eat our food, to look us in the eye and pretend to be our equal. You are nothing but a low-class scammer, a grifter, you and your mother both." Mama Patrice's head snapped up. "Now wait just a minute," she said, her voice trembling with indignation. "You can talk about Malik if you want, but do not you bring me into this. I am a woman of God. I raised my children with values. We are a respectable family." Respectable? Mrs. Brentwood laughed, a harsh, cruel sound. "You knew. You stood there at the check-in counter and watched him lie. You tried to cover for him. You are not a victim here, Patrice. You are the architect. You raised a con artist because you are one too." "That is enough," Mama Patrice said, clutching the gold cross around her neck. "The devil is busy today, I see. He is trying to tear this family apart, but I know that God will provide. He always has. This is just a test of our faith. We will overcome this. Zuri has hardened her heart, but the Lord will touch her, and she will see the error of her ways. She will come back and apologize and fix this mess." Mrs. Brentwood stared at her. Her eyes narrowed into slits. "You think God is going to fix this?" she asked quietly. "You think God is going to pay off the credit card debt your son racked up in my daughter's name? You think God is going to refund the time we wasted on this trashy family? He makes a way out of no way, Mama." Patrice recited, her eyes closing as if in prayer. "We just need to pray. We need to join hands and—" Mrs. Brentwood moved faster than anyone expected. She grabbed her cup of ice water, the condensation dripping down the sides, and in one fluid motion, she threw the contents directly into Mama Patrice's face. The water splashed across Mama Patrice's expensive makeup, soaking her silk blouse and dripping from her chin. She gasped, her eyes flying open in shock. The cold water hit her like a slap of reality. "Do not you dare quote scripture to me while you are picking my pocket," Mrs. Brentwood hissed, leaning across the table. "God did not book those tickets. God did not max out those credit cards. And God certainly did not raise a son who steals from women. You are a hypocrite, Patrice, and you are wet." The food court went silent around them. A group of teenagers at the next table stopped mid-laugh, phones raised to record the drama. Malik sat frozen, his mouth hanging open, watching the water drip from his mother's nose. Mama Patrice sputtered, wiping at her eyes with a useless paper napkin. You assaulted me. I will sue you." "With what money?" Mr. Brentwood asked coldly. "You cannot even afford a ride home." Tiffany had been silent this whole time. She sat at the end of the table, staring at the cup of soda in front of her. The ice had melted, leaving a watery brown liquid. She looked at Malik. She looked at his slumped shoulders, his averted eyes, the way he let his mother fight his battles. She looked at her own hand. The diamond ring on her finger sparkled under the harsh lights. It was a big ring, flashy. Malik had told her it was a custom design imported from Belgium. Now she wondered if it was glass. She wondered if Zuri had paid for it, or worse, if he had bought it at a pawn shop with money he stole from her own purse. She started to twist the ring. It was tight on her finger, a symbol of the suffocating lie she had been living. She twisted it over the knuckle, the metal scraping against her skin. Tiff, Malik whispered, seeing what she was doing. "Baby, do not." Tiffany did not look at him. She pulled the ring off. She held it up to the light for a second, inspecting it with a look of profound disappointment. Then she dropped it. It fell into Malik's soda cup with a soft plop, disappearing into the dark liquid. "I want a divorce," Tiffany said, her voice devoid of any emotion. Malik stared at the cup. He stared at the ripples in the soda where his marriage had just drowned. "Tiff, please," he begged, reaching across the table. "We can go to counseling. We can start over. I will get a job. I will work at the warehouse. I will do anything." "It is too late for that," Tiffany said, standing up. She picked up her purse, the only thing she had left that she knew was real because her father had bought it for her. "I do not want your apologies, Malik. I do not want your promises. I certainly do not want your mother's prayers. I want out. I want my name off your accounts. I want my credit score fixed. And I want you to stay away from me." She looked at Mama Patrice, who was still dabbing at her wet blouse. "And you," she said, "do not ever contact me again. Do not send me Christmas cards. Do not tag me in posts. As far as I am concerned, the Jenkins family died today." She turned to her parents. "Let us go. I will call a real car service." The Brentwoods stood up, casting one last look of disdain at the soaking wet mother and the broken son. They flanked their daughter, forming a protective wall as they marched out of the food court, leaving their half-eaten salads and the wreckage of a family behind them. Malik sat there, staring into his soda cup. He reached 2 fingers in and fished out the ring. It was sticky and cold. He wiped it on his tracksuit pants. Mama Patrice looked at him. Her hair was ruined. Her blouse was ruined. Her reputation was ruined. "Well," she said, her voice trembling with rage, "are you going to finish those fries? Because we are going to be here for a while." Zuri blocked my number. Malik did not answer. He just held the ring tight in his fist, squeezing it until it hurt, wishing he could squeeze the last 5 years out of existence. But the ring was hard and cold and real, just like the floor he was going to sleep on tonight. The taxi ride from the airport to the city center was a long, quiet journey through the freezing rain that had begun to fall over Atlanta. It was not the luxury SUV service my family was accustomed to, but a yellow cab with a suspension that groaned over every pothole and a heater that barely worked. Mama Patrice sat in the back seat, shivering in her damp blouse, the water Mrs. Brentwood had thrown on her slowly drying into a stiff, cold stain. Malik sat beside her, staring out the window at the blurred lights of the highway, his hands clenched into fists in his lap. They were not heading back to the house in Buckhead. They could not go there yet, not with the shame of the airport hanging over them like a shroud. They needed a target for their rage. They needed someone to blame for the ruin of their reputation and the collapse of their fantasies. And there was only one person responsible in their eyes: me. They directed the driver to my building, the Sovereign. It was one of the most exclusive addresses in the city, a glass spire that pierced the skyline. To them, it was just an apartment I rented, a place I lived in while I played secretary for rich people. They assumed I was living above my means, struggling to pay rent, probably using the money I supposedly stole from Malik to fund a lifestyle I did not deserve. "That is where she is, Mama." Patrice muttered, her voice raspy from crying and screaming. "Sitting up in that high tower laughing at us. She thinks she can humiliate her own mother and get away with it. She thinks she can lock her brother out of his own accounts and not face the consequences." We are going to teach her a lesson, Malik said, his voice low and menacing. I am going to make her turn the cards back on. I am going to make her call Tiffany and tell her it was all a prank, a sick joke. Zuri has always had a twisted sense of humor. Once I get in her face, she will fold. She always folds. The taxi pulled up to the curb in front of the building. The doorman, a stoic man named James, whom I tipped generously every Christmas, stepped forward to open the door, but Malik shoved it open before he could reach it. Hey, man, the driver called out, turning around. That will be $45. Malik patted his pockets automatically, then froze, remembering his wallet was full of useless plastic. He looked at Mama Patrice. Mama Patrice let out a huff of indignation and dug into her purse, pulling out a crumpled $50 bill she had been saving for the casino slots in Aspen. She threw it at the driver, not waiting for change. Keep it, she snapped, stepping out into the cold drizzle. They marched toward the entrance of the building. From the street they looked up. The penthouse floor. My floor was blazing with light. Music thumped faintly against the glass, a heavy bass line that vibrated the air. Shadows moved against the windows, silhouettes of people dancing and mingling. Look at that, Malik sneered, pointing up. She is throwing a party. While we are stranded at the airport eating garbage, she is up there partying. Probably spending my money, Mama Patrice added, adjusting her ruined blouse. Trying to impress those rappers she works for. Well, the party is over. They pushed through the revolving doors into the lobby. The lobby of the Sovereign was a masterpiece of marble and gold leaf, designed to intimidate anyone who did not belong there. A massive Christmas tree stood in the center, decorated with crystals and white lights. Mama Patrice marched straight toward the elevators, her heels clicking sharply on the stone floor. Malik followed close behind, chest puffed out, ready for a fight. "Excuse me," a deep voice rumbled. They stopped. Standing in front of the elevator bank was the head of security, a man we called Big T. He was 6 feet 5 inches of muscle and professionalism, wearing a suit that cost more than Malik's entire wardrobe. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back, blocking the path with the immovability of a mountain. "You cannot go up there," Big T said, his voice calm but firm. "Do not tell me where I can go," Mama Patrice shouted, pointing a finger in his face. "My daughter lives here, Zuri Jenkins. We are her family and we are going up to see her right now. Ms. Jenkins is hosting a private event," Big T replied, not blinking. "She has left strict instructions, no unauthorized guests. And your names are not on the list." "List?" Malik scoffed, stepping forward, trying to look intimidating next to the giant man. "We do not need to be on a list, we are blood. Now move out of the way before I make a scene." Big T looked down at Malik. He looked at the stained tracksuit and the desperate eyes. "Sir, you are already making a scene, and if you take one more step, I will have to escort you out. Physically." Mama Patrice gasped, clutching her pearls. "You would put your hands on a woman of God. You would stop a mother from seeing her child on Christmas." "I am doing my job, ma'am," Big T said. Just then, the elevator doors pinged open. The sound of laughter and music spilled out into the quiet lobby, louder now. A group of people stepped out. Mama Patrice and Malik froze. They recognized the faces immediately. Walking out of the elevator was a starting point guard for the Atlanta Hawks, wearing a diamond chain that caught the lobby lights. Next to him was a platinum-selling R&B singer whose face was on billboards all over the city. They were laughing, holding gift bags stamped with the Zenith Concierge logo. "Man, that was the best party of the year," the basketball player was saying. "Zuri really knows how to throw down. Did you see that ice sculpture?" The singer nodded, fixing her sunglasses even though it was night. "She is the best in the business. I am booking her for my tour next year. No question." They walked past my frozen family, not even glancing at the wet woman and the man in the tracksuit, assuming they were just fans or delivery people. Malik's jaw dropped. He watched the celebrities walk out the front door into waiting black SUVs. He looked back at the elevator. She has celebrities up there," he whispered. In her apartment. She is wasting money, Mama, Patrice shrieked, her envy overriding her shock. She is spending every dime she has to show off. That is my money she is wasting. That is the money that should have gone to your business, Malik. She lunged for the open elevator door. Big T stepped sideways, blocking her path with his arm. Ma'am, I am warning you, Zuri Mama. Patrice screamed at the ceiling as if I could hear her 40 floors up. Zuri, get down here. I know you can hear me, you ungrateful child, you thief. You are throwing parties while your mother is on the street. The commotion was drawing attention. Residents walking their dogs stopped to watch. The concierge at the front desk picked up the phone, presumably calling the police. Suddenly, the other elevator door opened. The noise stopped. I stepped out. I was not wearing my office clothes anymore. I was wearing a floor-length emerald green gown that shimmered like liquid money. My hair was swept up, and I wore the diamond earrings I had bought for myself last year. I held a glass of champagne in one hand and a thick manila folder in the other. I stood there in the lobby light looking at them. I looked at my mother, her hair frizzed from the humidity, her face twisted in an ugly snarl. I looked at my brother, small and pathetic, his fists clenched at his sides. Well, I said, my voice echoing in the marble hall. If it is not the ghost of Christmas past and the ghost of future unemployment. Zuri. Mama Patrice breathed heavily, her chest heaving. How dare you? How dare you humiliate us like this? You have celebrities upstairs drinking champagne while we were eating at a food court. I took a sip of my drink. Actually, the food court was a choice. You could have gone home. Oh wait, that is right. You do not have a ride. You need to fix this, Zuri Malik shouted, stepping around Big T, who let him pass, only because he saw me nod. You need to call Tiffany. You need to tell her you lied. You need to tell her the company is mine. I looked at him with genuine pity. Malik, it is over. The lie is dead. Tiffany saw the receipts. She knows you are broke. She knows you are a fraud. Calling her now would just be sad. You ruined my life, he screamed, veins bulging in his neck. I saved her life, I corrected. I saved her from wasting another year on a man who has to ask his little sister for gas money. Mama Patrice stepped forward, tears streaming down her face, now weaponizing her grief. Zuri, baby, please. Stop this. We are your family. We love you. We just want to come inside. It is cold out there. We just want to have Christmas together. I looked at the folder in my hand. It was heavy. Inside were the documents I had prepared weeks ago, hoping I would never have to use them. You want to come inside? I asked. Into my home. The home you told everyone I rented. The home you said was clutter. I did not mean it, Mama Patrice pleaded. I was just stressed. You know how I get. I do know how you get, Mama, I said. And that is why we are here. I handed the champagne glass to Big T, who took it with a respectful nod. I opened the folder. You want to come in? I said, pulling out a document with a red stamp on the top. You want to talk about housing? Let us talk about housing. I held the paper up so they could see it. It was a legal notice. A notice to vacate. You see, Mama? I continued, my voice hard as diamonds. You cannot come into my home because you have overstayed your welcome in my life. And speaking of overstaying, this is for the house in Buckhead. Mama Patrice squinted at the paper. What is this? It is an eviction notice, Mama, I said. 30 days. That is how long you have to get your things and get out. Because I am selling the house. Selling it? Malik gasped. You cannot sell it. That is our house. It is my house, I snapped. My name is on the deed. My money paid the mortgage. And since you two have made it very clear that I am not part of this family, I do not see why I should continue to support it. Mama Patrice looked like she was going to faint. She grabbed Malik's arm for support. You are putting your mother on the street. On Christmas. I shrugged. You told me not to come for Christmas, remember? You said there was no room for me. Well, now there is no room for you either. I handed the folder to Malik. He took it, his hands trembling. Take this, I said. Read it. Weep over it. Weep over. I do not care. But do not ever show your face in this building again. Or next time, Big T will not be the only one waiting for you. I turned around and pressed the elevator button. The doors opened immediately, as if the building itself wanted to protect me. Zuri, Mama Patrice wailed, her voice breaking. Zuri, please! I stepped into the elevator and turned to face them as the doors began to slide shut. Merry Christmas, Mama, I said. Try the Uber. I heard the surge pricing is down. The doors closed, cutting off her screams, and leaving me in the silence of the lift, rising up toward the stars, leaving the debris of my past on the ground floor where it belonged. The silence inside the elevator as I ascended was a stark contrast to the chaos I had left in the lobby. The penthouse was waiting for me, warm and filled with the scent of pine and cinnamon, but I could not relax yet. The confrontation downstairs was merely the prelude. The real demolition was about to begin. I stood in my living room looking out at the city lights, my hands gripping the edge of the folder I had carried up with me. It contained the receipts of my life, the documentation of my generosity that had been twisted into obligation. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Big T. They are still here, Ms. Jenkins. Your mother is refusing to leave the sidewalk. She is making a scene. I sighed. Of course she was. Mama Patrice did not know how to exit gracefully. She only knew how to be the victim. I walked over to the intercom system that connected directly to the lobby security desk. Send them up, I said. Are you sure, ma'am? Big T asked, his voice heavy with concern. I am sure, I replied. Let them see what they threw away. But T, stay close, and keep the elevator locked on this floor. Once they are up here, there is no way down until I say so. 10 minutes later, the elevator doors slid open. Mama Patrice and Malik stepped out looking like drowned rats. The rain had soaked through their clothes, leaving them shivering and miserable. They looked around my penthouse, their eyes wide with greed and resentment. The high ceilings, the modern art, the panoramic view, it was a world away from the life they thought I lived. Well, Mama Patrice sneered, her voice dripping with disdain. Is this where you hide your stolen money? Is this where you plot against your family? I did not offer them a seat. I did not offer them a towel. I stood in the center of the room like a judge in her courtroom. Stolen money. I repeated, my voice echoing slightly in the large space. That is funny, coming from the woman who is wearing a coat I paid for, carrying a purse I bought, standing in shoes I funded. I am your mother, she screamed, stepping forward, her finger pointing accusingly at me. I gave you life. You owe me everything. You have a responsibility to take care of me. You cannot just cut me off because you are having a tantrum. A tantrum, I laughed, a cold, bitter sound. You call this a tantrum? You uninvited me to Christmas. You told me I was clutter. You told me I ruined the vibe. And now you want to talk about responsibility. I walked over to the coffee table where I had laid out the documents from the folder. I picked up the first one. It was a thick sheaf of papers bound with a blue clip. Do you know what this is, Mama? I asked, holding it up. She squinted at it, suspicious. Some legal nonsense, I am sure. Just more lies to confuse us. It is the deed to the house in Buckhead, I said. The house you live in. The house you told Tiffany was yours. The house you told the church you bought with your investment dividends. I flipped to the last page. My signature was there, bold and clear. Zuri Jenkins. And do you see this name? I asked, pointing to it. It is not yours, Mama. It is mine. Every brick, every window, every blade of grass. It belongs to me. Mama Patrice stared at the paper, her face draining of color. But you said it was a family trust. You said it was for all of us. I said I bought it for the family, I corrected. I never said it belonged to you. I let you live there, rent-free, for 5 years. I paid the property taxes. I paid the insurance. I paid for the landscaping so you could host your garden club and pretend you were a lady of leisure. And this, I picked up another document. This is the title to the Cadillac Escalade. The one you drove here tonight. Or rather, the one you took a taxi from because you could not afford the gas. It is in my name too, Mama. Every single payment came from my account. Malik stepped forward, his eyes darting between the papers and my face. So what, he spat. You have money, big deal. You are supposed to share it. We are family. You cannot just hold this over our heads. I am not holding it over your heads, I said. I am taking it back. I dropped the papers back onto the table. The sound was like a gunshot in the quiet room. You said you did not need me. I continued, my voice rising. You said I was not welcome. You said I was an embarrassment. Well, if I am such an embarrassment, then my money must be embarrassing too. My house must be embarrassing. My car must be embarrassing. So I am doing you a favor, Mama. I am removing the embarrassment from your life. I picked up the last document. It was a single sheet of paper, stark and official. It had a red stamp at the top that read, Notice to vacate. This is a 30-day notice, I said, holding it out to her. You have 30 days to get your things and get out. The house is going on the market on January 1st. Mama Patrice looked at the paper as if it were a venomous snake. Get out, she whispered. You are evicting your own mother. I am evicting a tenant who does not pay rent and disrespects the landlord, I said. You have 30 days, Mama. And I suggest you use them wisely because I am not paying for the movers either. She lunged for me. It was a desperate, animalistic movement. She tried to grab the paper, to tear it up, to destroy the evidence of her downfall. But I was faster. I stepped back, and Big T, who had been standing silently by the elevator, moved forward, blocking her path. Mama Patrice collapsed. Her legs gave out and she fell to the floor, sobbing into the expensive rug. It was a performance I had seen 1,000 times before. The tears, the wailing, the appeals to heaven. But this time, the audience was not buying a ticket. How can you do this? She howled, beating her fists against the floor. I am old. I am sick. Where will I go? Who will take care of me? Maybe Malik can take care of you, I suggested, looking at my brother, who was leaning against the wall looking like he wanted to disappear. After all, he is the man of the house, right? He is the big investor. Surely he can afford a nice apartment for his mother. Malik looked at his mother on the floor. He looked at me, standing tall and untouchable. And for the first time, I saw the realization in his eyes. He was nothing. Without me, he was just a man in a tracksuit with no skills, no money, and no future. You are cold, Zuri, he muttered. You are ice cold. I learned from the best, I said, looking down at my mother. Get up, Mama. The show is over. She looked up at me, her face streaked with mascara and snot. You will burn in hell for this, she hissed. Maybe, I replied, but at least I will have a roof over my head while I do it. Big T helped her up, his face impassive. He guided them back to the elevator. Mama Patrice was still crying, still cursing, still trying to bargain with a god she only called on when she needed a favor. Malik walked behind her, his head down, his spirit broken. As the doors closed, I saw my mother's face one last time. It was a mask of pure hatred and fear. She knew. She knew that the ride was over. She knew that she had pushed me too far, and now she was falling off the edge of the world she had built on my back. I stood there in the silence of my penthouse, the eviction notice still in my hand. I felt a strange lightness in my chest. It was not joy exactly. It was relief. The weight of their expectations, the burden of their ungratefulness, it was gone. I had cut the anchor, and now I could finally sail. I walked to the window and looked out at the city. The snow was falling harder now, covering the streets in a blanket of white. It looked clean. It looked new. I poured myself another glass of wine. 30 days, I whispered to the empty room. 30 days, and I am free. The silence in the penthouse was thick and heavy, like the calm before a tornado. Mama Patrice was still on the floor, sobbing into the Persian rug, her tears a mixture of genuine despair and calculated performance. Malik stood over her, his fists clenched so tight his knuckles were white, his eyes burning with a rage that had been simmering for years. "You think you are so smart?" He spat, his voice trembling. "You think because you have money now you can treat us like this? Like we are trash. We are your family, Zuri. We raised you." I looked at him. Really looked at him. I saw the fear behind the anger. I saw the little boy who had always gotten what he wanted, and the man who was terrified of losing it all. "Raised me." I asked, my voice quiet but sharp. "Is that what you call it?" "I call it survival. I call it dodging your punches and cleaning up your messes." I walked closer to him, my heels clicking on the hardwood floor. "Do you remember when I was 18, Malik? Do you remember the scholarship? The full ride to Spelman. The one I worked 4 years for. The one that was going to change my life." Malik flinched. He remembered. Of course he remembered. Mama Patrice looked up from the floor, her sobbing quieting to sniffles. "Zuri, do not bring up the past. That was a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" I laughed, a harsh, broken sound. "You forged my signature on the withdrawal form, Mama. You told the admissions office I had decided to stay home to help with the family business." "What business, Mama?" "We did not have a business. We had debt." "I did it for the family," she whispered. "Malik needed a car. He needed to get to his auditions. He was going to be a star." "A star," I repeated. "He was going to be a rapper. And he needed a brand new Escalade to do it. So you took my tuition refund. You took the money that was supposed to pay for my books, my dorm, my future. And you bought him a car. A car he wrecked 3 months later driving drunk." Malik took a step forward, his face twisting. "It was an accident. The road was slick." "You were drunk, Malik," I snapped. "And I was the one who had to pay for the lawyer. I was the one who had to take out loans to pay for community college because my scholarship was gone. I was the one working 2 jobs while you played video games and waited for your big break." I took another step closer, until I was right in his face. "I never forgot, Malik, never forgot. Every shift I worked, every textbook I could not afford, every night I cried myself to sleep, wondering why I wasn't good enough. I remembered, and I promised myself that one day I would get it back. All of it. The money, the time, the respect. And now," I said, my voice dropping to a whisper, "I have collected. With interest." "You are a monster," Malik screamed. He lunged. It happened in slow motion. I saw his arm draw back, saw the intent in his eyes. He wanted to hurt me. He wanted to silence me. He wanted to erase the truth that was standing right in front of him. But he never made contact. Big T moved with a speed that defied his size. In one fluid motion, he stepped between us, his hand shooting out to grab Malik's wrist mid-swing. There was a sickening crack as he twisted Malik's arm behind his back, forcing him to his knees. Malik howled in pain, his face pressed against the floorboards. "Let me go! You broke my arm!" Big T looked down at him, his face impassive. "I restrained you, sir. If you continue to resist, I will have to escalate." Mama Patrice scrambled to her feet, screaming. "Let him go! You are hurting him! Zuri, tell him to stop. That is your brother. He tried to hit me, Mama," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. "He tried to assault me in my own home. And you are worried about him. Of course you are." I looked at Big T. "Call the police." Big T nodded, pulling a radio from his belt. "Dispatch, we have a code 3 in the penthouse." Intruder restrained. "Requesting immediate police assistance." "No, Mama." Patrice wailed, grabbing my arm. "Zuri, please. Not the police. He has priors. If he goes back in, he won't come out." "Then maybe he should have thought about that before he tried to punch me," I said, pulling my arm away. The minutes that followed were a blur of noise and chaos. Malik struggling and cursing on the floor, Mama Patrice pleading and praying, Big T standing like a statue, his grip unyielding, and me standing by the window watching the snow fall, feeling a cold numbness spreading through my chest. When the elevator doors opened again, it wasn't celebrities or guests. It was two officers from the Atlanta Police Department. They stepped into the penthouse, their hands on their holsters, taking in the scene. "What is the situation here?" the older officer asked, looking from Big T to Malik. Big T released Malik, who stayed on the floor cradling his arm. This individual attempted to assault the homeowner, Ms. Jenkins. I intervened to ensure her safety. The officer looked at me. "Is this true, ma'am?" "Yes," I said. "He broke into my building. He threatened me, and then he tried to attack me. I want to press charges." "Zuri no Mama," Patrice screamed, lunging for the officer. "He did not mean it. It is a family dispute. She is lying." The officer stepped back, putting a hand up. "Ma'am, step back, or you will be joining him." They hauled Malik to his feet. He looked small now, defeated. The bravado was gone, replaced by the terrified realization of what was happening. He looked at me, his eyes pleading. "Zuri, please, do not do this. I am sorry." I looked at him. I looked at the brother I had protected for so long, the brother I had sacrificed my dreams for, and I felt nothing. "I am sorry too, Malik," I said. "Sorry I did not do this sooner." The officers handcuffed him, reciting his rights in a monotone voice. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you." They marched him to the elevator. Mama Patrice followed, sobbing, reaching out for him as if she could pull him back from the abyss. As the doors closed, Malik looked back at me one last time. His eyes were full of hate, full of fear, and full of the knowledge that he had finally pushed me too far. I stood in the empty penthouse, the silence rushing back in to fill the void. The party was over. The guests were gone. My family was gone. I walked over to the coffee table and picked up the eviction notice that had fallen to the floor during the scuffle. It was wrinkled now, stained with a drop of wine. I smoothed it out. 30 days. I walked to the window and pressed my hand against the glass. Below me, the police car lights flashed red and blue, illuminating the snow. They were taking him away. Taking away the golden child. Taking away the burden I had carried for 29 years. I took a deep breath, inhaling the scent of freedom. It was cold. It was sharp. And it was the sweetest thing I had ever tasted. The steel door slammed shut with a sound that vibrated through the fillings in Malik's teeth. It was a sound of finality, a sound that marked the boundary between the life he thought he deserved and the reality he had been running from for 5 years. He was not in a luxury suite at the Little Nell. He was not sipping aged cognac by a fireplace. He was in a holding cell at the Fulton County Jail on Christmas Eve, and the only thing he was sipping was the metallic taste of his own blood, where he had bitten his tongue during the takedown. The holding cell smelled of bleached stale sweat and despair. It was crowded, filled with men who had made bad choices or had bad luck, but none of them looked as out of place as Malik. He was still wearing his tracksuit, though the officers had taken the drawstring from the pants and the laces from his shoes, leaving him shuffling around like a toddler. His arm throbbed with a dull ache where Big T had twisted it, a constant reminder of how easily his physical strength had been overpowered by a professional. He needed to get out. He needed bail. The judge had not seen him yet, but the booking officer had mentioned a bond schedule. It was money. Everything was just money. And Malik always had money, or at least he always had access to it. He pushed his way to the wall phone. His hands were shaking not just from the cold, but from a withdrawal of adrenaline. He dialed the only number that mattered. Zuri. It rang once, twice, then a click. "The number you have dialed is not accepting calls at this time." He slammed the receiver against the wall. She had blocked him. She had actually blocked him while he was in jail. The cruelty of it took his breath away. She knew where he was. She knew he was suffering, and she did not care. He dialed Tiffany. He knew her number by heart. He had paid for that number. "We are sorry, the number you have reached has been disconnected or is no longer in service." Disconnected. She had changed her number. In less than 6 hours, she had erased him from her digital life. She had not just left him, she had deleted him. Panic started to rise in his chest, a cold tide of fear. He dialed Mama Patrice. She answered on the first ring, her voice a jagged sob. "Malik, baby." "Oh, Jesus. Malik, are you okay?" "They would not let me ride in the car. They left me on the sidewalk, Malik. It is raining and I am cold. Mom, listen to me." Malik hissed, his voice low, shielding the receiver with his hand. "Stop crying. I need you to get me out. I need bail money. Go to the house. Look in the safe in the floor of the closet. There might be cash. There is no cash." "Malik, Mama." Patrice wailed. "The safe is empty. I checked it before I left. And I cannot go back. The security guard, Big T, he is standing in the lobby. He said if I try to go back up, he will call the police on me too. I am at a motel, Malik." "A Motel 6. It smells like cigarettes." "Use your card," Malik demanded. "The emergency card. It is declined, baby. Everything is declined. They even declined my debit card for a soda." Zuri shut it all down. "We have nothing." Malik felt the blood drain from his face. "Nothing." The word echoed in his empty head. I have to go, Mom." He hung up before she could ask him for help. He could not help her. He could not even help himself. He looked around the cell. He needed money, fast money. He thought about the guys he hung out with at the club, the guys he bought bottles for, the guys who called him boss and king. They always talked about loyalty. They always talked about having each other's backs. He dialed D-Rock. D-Rock was a promoter, a guy who always had a roll of cash and a connection. Malik had let D-Rock stay in the guest house for a week last summer when his girl kicked him out. D-Rock owed him. "Yo, who this?" "It is Malik, man." There was a pause, then a low chuckle. "Malik, the crypto god. What is up, fam? Why you calling from a collect line? You lose your phone in the snow in Aspen." "Nah, man. Listen," Malik said, trying to keep the desperation out of his voice. "There was a mix-up. Banking error. My accounts are frozen for security reasons because of the large transactions. I am stuck in county, man. I need a bond. It is a few grand." "I will hit you back double next week when the bank opens," Double D-Rock said. "That sounds good. That sounds real good." "Yeah, man," Double Malik promised. "Just come get me." There was a long silence on the line. Then D-Rock laughed. A loud, cruel sound that made the other men in the cell look over. "You think I am stupid, Malik?" "What?" Malik stammered. "No, man, We saw the email," D-Rock said, his voice turning hard. "Tiffany posted it on her story before she deleted her account. The payroll records, fam. Unemployment assistance. Allowance. You ain't got no frozen millions. You broke. You been broke." "That is fake." Malik pleaded, sweat stinging his eyes. "Zuri photoshopped it. She is hating on me." "Save it," D-Rock interrupted. "You sat in VIP with us drinking Ace of Spades, acting like you were Jay-Z and your little sister was paying the tab the whole time. That is clown behavior, man. You a clown." "D-Rock, please. Do not call this phone again," D-Rock said. "And if I see you in the city, you better have that 500 you borrowed for the strip club last month, or are we gonna have a problem?" Click. Malik stared at the receiver. The dial tone buzzed in his ear, mocking him. He tried one more number. JJ, his tennis partner, a guy who worked in finance. JJ picked up. "Hello, Jay, it is Malik." "Oh, Malik." The tone said everything. It was cold, distant, the voice of a man speaking to a telemarketer. "I am in a jam, Jay. I cannot help you," Malik, JJ said, cutting him off. "And honestly, you should lose my number. My firm does not like me associating with people under investigation for fraud." "Fraud," Malik whispered. "Word travels fast," JJ said. "Your sister is a respected businesswoman, Malik. You are a liability. Goodbye." Malik let the phone slide out of his hand. It swung on its metal cord, banging against the wall. He turned around. The cell seemed smaller now. The walls were closing in. He walked to the concrete bench and sat down. It was freezing. The cold seeped through the thin fabric of his track pants, biting into his skin. He pulled his knees up to his chest, wrapping his arms around himself. It was Christmas Eve. Usually on Christmas Eve, he would be at a party. He would be wearing a new suit. He would be holding a glass of expensive scotch, telling anyone who would listen about his next big venture. He would be the center of attention. Now he was the center of nothing. He looked at his shoes. They were Jordans. Zuri had bought them for his birthday. He looked at his watch. A Rolex. Zuri had bought it for his graduation from a business course he never finished. He realized with a jolt of nausea that he did not own a single thing on his body. He was a collage of his sister's generosity, a paper doll she had dressed up and allowed to play pretend. Without her money, he was not a businessman. He was not a mogul. He was not even a man. He was a ghost. He thought about Zuri in her green dress standing in the lobby holding the eviction notice. He thought about the look in her eyes. It was not hate. Hate implied passion. Hate implied connection. It was indifference. She did not care anymore. She had cut the string, and he was just drifting away into the dark. A tear leaked out of his eye, hot and humiliating. He wiped it away angrily, but another followed. And another. He was 32 years old. He had no job. He had no home. He had no wife. He had no friends. And for the first time in his life, he had no Zuri to fix it. He curled up on the hard bench, turning his face to the wall. The sounds of the jail continued around him, shouting, clanging, cursing. But Malik Jenkins heard only the silence of his own empty future, stretching out before him like a life sentence. The Motel 6 was a nightmare of thin walls and neon lights that buzzed like angry hornets. Mama Patrice had not slept a wink. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Mrs. Brentwood throwing water in her face, or Big T blocking the elevator, or Malik being dragged away in handcuffs. But mostly she saw me standing in my emerald gown, looking like a queen while she felt like a peasant. By morning, her sadness had calcified into a brittle, self-righteous anger. She used the last of the cash in her purse to take a taxi back to the house in Buckhead. She knew about the eviction notice. She knew she had 30 days. But in her mind, 30 days was a lifetime. It was enough time to turn the tide, enough time to rally the family, enough time to make me pay. She marched up the driveway, her heels clicking on the pavement. She unlocked the front door and stepped inside. The house was quiet and cold. It smelled of the expensive potpourri I bought for her and the lingering scent of her own denial. She went straight to the living room and sat on the velvet sofa. She pulled out her phone. It was time to go to war. She opened her contact list and found the number for Auntie Sheila. Sheila was the family matriarch, the gossip hub, the one whose opinions swayed the entire clan. If Sheila was on your side, you were safe. If she was against you, you were exiled. Patrice. Sheila answered, her voice thick with sleep. It is 6 a.m. What is wrong? Everything. Sheila Mama Patrice wailed, letting the tears flow. It is Zuri. She has lost her mind. She has been possessed by the devil. She had Malik arrested Sheila. On Christmas Eve. Arrested. Sheila asked, her voice sharpening. For what? For nothing, Mama Patrice lied smoothly. For trying to visit her. She has turned into a monster. She kicked us out of the airport. She stranded us. She is trying to evict me from my own home. You have to help me, Sheila. You have to tell the family to pray for her. We need to stage an intervention. She waited for the sympathy. She waited for the outrage. But instead there was a long pause. Patrice, Sheila said slowly, Have you checked the family group chat this morning? What chat? Mama Patrice asked, annoyed. The prayer circle. No, Sheila said. The big chat. The Jenkins family reunion chat. The one with everybody in it. Even cousin Ray from Detroit. Mama Patrice frowned. No, I have been too busy trying to survive. Why? You need to look at it, Patrice, Sheila said. and then she hung up. Mama Patrice stared at the phone. A cold knot formed in her stomach. She opened the messaging app. There was a new message from Zuri Jenkins sent at 4 in the morning. It was a single PDF file titled The Cost of Mama Patrice. Mama Patrice tapped it with a trembling finger. It opened to a spreadsheet, a detailed color-coded spreadsheet that went back 10 years. Page 1, 2013. Zuri's Scholarship Fund. Amount withdrawn by Patrice Jenkins $15,000. Memo: Emergency house repairs. Note: no repairs were made. Money used to purchase 2010 Cadillac Escalade for Malik Jenkins, page 2, 2015. Rent payments. Total amount paid by Zuri Jenkins for 123 Maple Drive, Buckhead. $240,000 over 5 years. Page 3. Lifestyle expenses. Neiman Marcus. Saks Fifth Avenue. The spa at the Four Seasons. The hair salon. The nail bar. The tithes to the church listed under Zuri's name, but claimed by Patrice. It went on and on. Thousands of dollars. Hundreds of thousands. Every single time she had asked me for money for medicine that was actually for a purse. Every time she had claimed the electric bill was high when she was actually sending money to Malik's bookie. Every lie, every manipulation, every theft. It was all there in black and white. Mama Patrice scrolled through the document, her breath coming in short gasps. She scrolled to the bottom where I had written a short message to the family. Family, I know Mama has been calling you, telling you I am ungrateful. I know she says I abandoned her, but the truth is, I have been carrying this family on my back for a decade. I have receipts for every dollar. I am not asking you to choose sides. I am just asking you to do the math. If she calls you asking for money, ask her where the $500,000 I gave her went. Merry Christmas. Mama Patrice dropped the phone on the cushion. Then the notifications started. Ping. It was a message from Cousin Dante. Damn, Auntie P. You spent $500 on a hat while Zuri was eating noodles in college. That is cold. Ping. Auntie Bernice. I thought you said you bought that house with your settlement money. You mean to tell me that baby girl has been paying your rent for 5 years and you treat her like a dog? Shame on you, Patrice. Ping. Uncle Earl. Do not call me for bail money. Call Jesus. He is the only one who can afford you. The messages flooded in, an avalanche of judgment. The family she had spent years impressing the people she had looked down on because she pretended to be rich, they were all seeing her naked. They saw the greed. They saw the selfishness. They saw the ugliness she had hidden under her Sunday hats. She tried to type a reply. She tried to type, "It is a lie." She photoshopped it, but her fingers would not work. The evidence was too overwhelming. The detail was too precise. She needed an ally. She needed someone who understood forgiveness. She dialed Pastor Jones. He answered on the second ring. Sister Jenkins. Pastor Mama Patrice sobbed. You have to help me. Zuri is attacking me. She is spreading lies. The family is turning against me. I need you to speak to them. I need you to tell them about my character. Sister Jenkins. The pastor's voice was heavy, not with comfort but with disappointment. I saw the document. You saw it, Mama Patrice whispered. Deacon Thomas showed it to me, Pastor Jones said. Sister Jenkins, there are entries here for tithes, large tithes, $5,000 for the building fund, $3,000 for the mission trip. Yes, Mama Patrice said, grasping at a straw. See, I give to the church. I am a good woman. But the document says those payments came directly from Zuri's account, the pastor said. Yet when you handed me the checks, you told me they were from your personal savings. You stood up in front of the congregation and took the blessing for another woman's sacrifice. I was just delivering it for her, Mama Patrice stammered. And the renovation fund, the pastor continued. You told me last month you needed assistance with your light bill because you were on a fixed income. We took up a collection for you. $500 from the poor box. Yet according to this, you bought a Gucci belt for your son the very next day. Pastor, please. You stole from the poor Sister Jenkins, the pastor said, his voice thundering now. You lied to God, and you abused the child who was blessing you. Do not come to the service this Sunday. We need to pray on whether you are welcome in this fellowship anymore. The line went dead. Mama Patrice sat in the silence of the living room. The phone slid from her hand. She was alone, truly alone. The family knew. The church knew. The facade she had spent her life building, the image of the pious, wealthy matriarch, had crumbled into dust. She looked around the room, at the expensive furniture she didn't buy, at the art on the walls she didn't choose. It was all a set, a stage for a play that had been cancelled. At least I have the house, she whispered to herself, hugging her knees. I have 30 days. I can fix this. I can find a way. She stood up to go to the kitchen to make tea to calm her nerves. She reached for the light switch on the wall. Click. Nothing happened. She frowned. She flipped it up and down. Click, click, click. Nothing. She looked at the digital clock on the oven. The display was blank. The hum of the refrigerator had stopped. The house was silent. Dead silent. She pulled out her phone again. 1% battery. Just enough to see the email notification that had come in 2 minutes ago. From Georgia Power. Subject Service Disconnection Notice. Customer Zuri Jenkins has requested immediate termination of service at 123 Maple Drive. Final bill has been paid. Account closed. Mama Patrice stared at the screen as the battery icon turned red and then black. The phone died. And then the sun went behind a cloud, and the living room plunged into shadow. She sat back down on the sofa. The cold was already starting to creep in. The house without the heating system was just a box of brick and drywall. It offered no comfort. It offered no warmth. She wrapped her arms around herself, rocking back and forth. Zuri, she whispered into the darkness. Zuri, what have you done? But there was no answer. Only the sound of the wind rattling the windows of the house she did not own in the life she could no longer afford. She was the queen of nothing, sitting on a throne of lies in the dark. The coffee shop was one of those trendy spots in Buckhead where people went to be seen, not to be heard. It smelled of oat milk and quiet desperation. I arrived 5 minutes early, dressed in a tailored wool coat and boots, my hair freshly braided. I ordered a black coffee and sat by the window, watching the rain turn the streets of Atlanta into slick mirrors. Tiffany arrived 10 minutes late. She looked like a ghost of her former self. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by jeans and a sweater that looked like it had been pulled from the bottom of a hamper. Her blonde hair, usually perfectly blown out, was pulled back in a messy bun. Her eyes were red-rimmed and puffy. She walked into the cafe looking around nervously, as if she expected a repo man to jump out from behind the espresso machine. She spotted me and hurried over, sliding into the chair opposite mine. She did not order anything. Zuri, she said, her voice a breathless whisper. Thank you for meeting me. I know you did not have to. I took a slow sip of my coffee. You said it was an emergency, Tiffany. You said it was life or death. So here I am. What do you want? Tiffany reached into her purse a bag that I recognized as a knockoff, now that I looked closely, and pulled out a stack of envelopes. She pushed them across the table towards me. Her hands were shaking so bad the papers fluttered. Look at this, she said, tears welling up in her eyes immediately. Just look at it, Zuri. It is a nightmare. I glanced at the return addresses. Chase Bank, Wells Fargo, Discover. A collection agency I did not recognize. I opened the first one. It was a credit card statement. The balance was $25,000. The minimum payment was overdue. I opened the second one. Another card. $15,000. The third was a notice of default on a personal loan for $50,000. I looked up at Tiffany. These are in your name, I said. Why are you showing me this? Because I did not spend this money, Tiffany sobbed. Malik did. He told me his credit was tied up in investments. He told me he needed me to co-sign. He said it was just for leverage that he would pay it off in a month. He said it was for our future Zuri. I flipped through the statement. The charges were familiar. The same clubs, the same stores, the same online betting sites I had seen on my own statements before I cut him off. So you signed for him, I said, my voice flat. You let him take out loans in your name. I trusted him, she wailed, attracting the attention of the barista. He is my husband. He told me he was rich. He told me you were managing his accounts. I thought it was safe. You thought you married a meal ticket, I corrected. You thought you hit the jackpot. And you were so blinded by the idea of being a rich wife that you did not bother to check the receipts. Tiffany wiped her nose with the back of her hand. I know I was stupid, Zuri. I know I was greedy. But I cannot pay this. My parents, they cut me off. My dad said I made my bed and I have to lie in it. He said he is not bailing me out of a mess I created by marrying a con artist. She reached across the table, trying to grab my hand. I pulled it away. Zuri, please, she begged. You have money. You have a company. This is pocket change to you. Just help me pay off the minimums. Just help me get my credit score back, so I can rent an apartment. I will pay you back, I swear. I will get a job. I will do anything. I looked at her. I looked at the woman who had spent the last 3 years treating me like I was invisible. The woman who had laughed when Malik made fun of my hair. The woman who had told me to my face that I was not classy enough to be part of her family. I remember a conversation we had last Easter, I said quietly. We were at the house. You were drinking wine that cost $200 a bottle. I was in the kitchen cleaning up. You came in to get a refill. Do you remember what you said to me? Tiffany blinked, confusion clouding her teary eyes. I do not. You looked at my shoes, I continued. They were sneakers because I had been on my feet all day cooking. And you said, Zuri, you really should try harder. You dress like the help. It is embarrassing for Malik to have a sister who looks so low budget. Tiffany flinched as if I had slapped her. I was drunk, Zuri. I did not mean it. You meant it, I said. You meant every word. You thought you were better than me. You thought because you were white and you had married the golden child that you were royalty. You thought I was beneath you. I leaned forward. And now here you are, begging the help for money, begging the low-budget sister to save you from your own stupidity. Zuri, please. No, I said, standing up. No, Tiffany, I am not going to help you, but I will lose everything, she cried, her voice rising to a shriek. They are going to sue me. I will have to declare bankruptcy. Then declare it, I said, buttoning my coat. Consider it a lesson in finance and a lesson in character. I picked up my purse. I threw a $20 bill on the table for my coffee. You called me clutter, Tiffany? I said, looking down at her. Well, now you know what it feels like to be discarded. I turned and walked away. Behind me, I heard her sobbing. I heard her calling my name. Zuri, wait. Zuri, please. I did not look back. I walked out of the coffee shop and into the rain. The air felt clean. The city felt big. I got into my car and drove. I drove past the luxury boutiques where Tiffany used to shop. I drove past the salons where she got her hair done. Later that day, I got a notification on my phone. It was from an online resale marketplace. A new listing had been posted. User Tiff Lux Life. Items for sale. Chanel Classic Flat Bag. Gently used. Price $2,000. Urgent sale. Christian Louboutin heels. Size 7. Price $500. Must go today. I scrolled through the photos, the bags I had seen her carry, the shoes she had strutted in, the symbols of her status, the armor of her arrogance, all being sold off piece by piece to pay for the mistakes of a man she thought was a king. I clicked on the profile. The bio read, starting over. Everything must go. I smiled. I did not buy anything. I did not need her cast-offs. I had my own. And unlike hers, Mine were paid for. I put the phone down and turned on the radio. A Christmas song was playing. Joy to the world. Indeed, I thought. Joy to the world, and especially to me. Aspen in December is a place where money goes to relax. The air is so thin and cold it feels like breathing champagne. I stood on the balcony of the chalet I had originally booked for my ungrateful family, watching the snowfall on the private hot tub I was about to step into. It was Christmas Eve. The fire was crackling inside, the scent of pine and expensive cologne drifting out to me. Inside the chalet, my real family was waiting. Not the family I was born into, but the family I had chosen. My business partner, Sarah, was there laughing with her husband. My best friend, Keisha, who had been my rock through every crisis, was pouring drinks. And sitting by the fire looking at me with eyes that actually saw me was David. David was a contract lawyer I had met 6 months ago. He was successful, handsome, and most importantly, he had his own money. He did not need mine. He did not ask for loans. He did not need me to buy him shoes to feel like a man. He just wanted me. I walked back inside, closing the glass door against the chill. David stood up as I entered, handing me a glass of vintage red wine. "You okay?" he asked, his voice low and warm. "You seemed a million miles away." "Just thinking," I said, taking the glass. "About last Christmas." Last Christmas, I had spent the holiday sleeping on the pull-out couch in my mother's living room because Tiffany needed the guest room for her yoga mat. I had cooked the entire dinner while they drank wine and criticized my seasoning. I had given them gifts worth thousands of dollars and received a pair of socks and a lecture about finding a real job. This Christmas, I was in a $10,000 a night chalet wearing cashmere and drinking wine that cost more than my mother's car note. "It is better this year," David said, clinking his glass against mine. "Much better." My phone buzzed on the coffee table. I had set a specific notification tone for anything related to the Jenkins family legal proceedings. A sharp final ping. I picked it up. It was a summary email from my lawyer, Marcus. Subject: final disposition of legal matters. I opened it. Item 1. Malik Jenkins. The court had been unsympathetic. The attempted assault charge, combined with the outstanding warrants for unpaid parking tickets and a little matter of tax evasion I had anonymously tipped the IRS about, had resulted in a plea deal. Malik had avoided prison time barely. Instead, he was sentenced to 2,000 hours of community service. His assignment: sanitation department. My brother, the man who would not wear anything without a designer logo, was going to spend the next 2 years picking up trash on the side of the highway in an orange vest. I smiled. It was poetic. Item 2, Patrice Jenkins. The eviction had gone through without a hitch. Mama Patrice had tried to fight it, claiming squatters' rights, claiming elder abuse, claiming anything that would stick. But the judge, a no-nonsense woman who had seen my receipts, was not impressed. She gave Mama Patrice 48 hours to vacate. With no credit, no savings, and a reputation in tatters, Mama Patrice had few options. The email confirmed her new address. It was a unit in the Shady Pines senior living community, a state-subsidized housing project on the outskirts of the city. It was clean, it was safe, and it was about as far from Buckhead as you could get without leaving the state. No more garden club, no more bridge nights, just bingo and bus schedules. Item 3. Tiffany Brentwood Jenkins. The divorce was messy. Tiffany had tried to get alimony, but since Malik had zero income, that was a dead end. Instead, she got half of his debt. The credit card companies had been relentless. The email attached a public notice from the Fulton County Sheriff's Office: asset seizure. Tiffany's car, a Mercedes she had leased in her name to impress Malik, had been repossessed yesterday. The notice listed her current status as indigent. I put the phone down. It was done. The slate was clean. The parasites had been removed. Sarah walked over, holding a tray of hors d'oeuvres. "Good news?" she asked, seeing the look on my face. "The best," I said. "Everything is settled." David put his arm around my waist, pulling me close. "So no more drama. No more late-night crisis calls. No more I promised. Just us. Just this. I looked around the room. At the warmth. At the laughter. At the genuine love that filled the space. This was what I had wanted all along. Not the flash, not the showing off, just peace. I thought about Mama Patrice sitting in her small apartment wondering where it all went wrong. I thought about Malik shivering on the side of the highway picking up other people's garbage. I thought about Tiffany walking because she no longer had a car to drive. They had wanted a life of luxury without the work. They had wanted the reward without the respect. And in their greed, they had lost the only person who was actually willing to give it to them. I walked back to the window, glass in hand. The snow was falling harder now, covering the world in a pristine white sheet. It covered the dirt. It covered the mistakes. It made everything new again. I raised my glass to the mountains, to the snow, to the universe that had finally balanced the scales. Merry Christmas to me, I whispered the words, tasting like victory. The trash took itself out. I turned back to the room, back to the warmth, back to my life. I took a sip of wine. It was rich and complex and perfect, just like my future. This story is a powerful reminder that sharing DNA does not give anyone the right to disrespect or exploit you. For years, Zuri believed that buying her family's love was her duty. But she learned the hard way that you cannot purchase genuine affection from those committed to using you. True family supports your growth. They don't treat you like a resource or clutter. Setting boundaries isn't an act of cruelty. It is an act of necessary self-preservation. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to let go of the people who weigh you down. If you have ever had to choose your own peace over toxic family loyalty, hit that like button and subscribe for more satisfying stories of justice served cold.